criminals, remember that. This is well documented. And the establishment that protects them has engaged in a massive cover-up of widespread criminal activity at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation in order to keep the Clintons in power. They knew they would throw every lie they could at me and my family and my loved ones. They knew they would stop at nothing to try to stop me. Nevertheless, I take all of these slings and arrows gladly for you. I take them for our movement so that we can have our country back. I knew this day would arrive. It's only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization has come upon a moment of reckoning. I didn't need to do this, folks, believe me. I built a great company, and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefits of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family, instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, deceptions, malicious attacks. Who would have thought? I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
And distinct privilege to introduce to you the President-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump.
Right now, a historic moment. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. CNN projects.
I've gotten to know our country so well. Tremendous potential. It's going to be a beautiful thing. Every single American will have the opportunity to realize his or her fullest potential. We will do a great job. I look very much forward to being your president. And hopefully at the end of 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or maybe even 8 years, you will say, so many of you worked so hard for us,
as
you will
Donald
say
Trump continues to speak to the excited crowd here in New York, we can tell you our decision desk has now put Wisconsin and Pennsylvania in the Trump column, the apparent winner.
And I can only say
that makes Trump the president-elect.
And
And of course, as he noted, Secretary Clinton had already called and conceded. Let's listen now to Donald Trump.
we're going to get to work immediately for the American people. And we're going to be doing a job that hopefully you'll be so proud of your president. You'll be so proud. Hillary, you're fired. Fired.
What the evil side did was they set up an ambush, and they had their people lined up to do the killing in the kill zone when we entered the kill zone, and they set up their Claymore mines. Well, what Trump has done is, as a sapper, you know, he's infiltrated in there, okay, and he's turned those Claymore mines around. The NDAA, the Patriot Act, the Authorization for Military Force, the Declaration of a National Emergency, all of these things, which are basically the evil sides, the leftist Marxist sides, people like Obama and Hillary, they were the Claymore mines set to take us out. And Trump has turned those around onto them. And so when they, you know, when they thought we were in the kill zone, you know, and they hit the trigger, the Claymores got them, not the good guys. You see how that worked?
misspells, knocks me on my knees. It didn't hurt, flirt, blood squirt, stuff shirt like me on a tree. After I count down 3 rounds in hell, I'll be in good.
This is an update on the ongoing battle for the planet Earth. Now, a lot of you may realize that there is a war going on, and it's been going on for quite some years now. This is World War III, but it is not a conventional war with conventional armies. It is a war that uses information, finance, assassinations, disinformation, special operations, many things like that.
Smells, tells, hells, bells, misspells, knocks me on my knees. It didn't hurt, flirt, blood squirt, stuffed shirt like me on a tree. After I count down 3 rounds in hell, I'll be in good company.
Merry Christmas, the 13 Illuminati bloodline families sue for peace. Posted on Benjamin Fulford Net. By Benjamin Fulford. Peace on earth and goodwill to all, and not just men, but all life forms, is looking like a realistic goal for 2018 now that the 13 Illuminati * bloodline families, seeing their ancient rule of planet Earth collapsing, are suing for peace. Last week a representative of the G7, Germany, the UK, the corporate US, Japan, Italy, France, and Canada, met with a representative of the White Dragon Society, WDs, to discuss peace terms, according to a WDs member who was present at the meeting. The G7, of course, is the political front for the 13 bloodline families. There can be no doubt that this meeting was made possible by people inside the military-industrial complex acting in the spirit of Jesus Christ, and for this we wish them all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. The bloodline offer to negotiate peace is directly connected to the state of emergency that was declared last week by USA President Donald Trump. If you have not seen it yet, please read the historic document in the link below. After Konica, Trump declared a state of emergency and signed an executive order on December 20 freezing the assets of those accused of human rights abuses and corruption, a catch-all to bankrupt the Bushes, Clintons, Soros, Obama, the cabal, and the global Jewish mafia, was how a Pentagon source summed up the situation. The national emergency allows Trump to seize assets and unleash the military to carry out mass arrests and adjudicate via military tribunals, effectively imposing martial law, the source continues. Pentagon source also sent a copy of this photograph with the explanation, Trump wears purple when unveiling his national security strategy on December 18 in a victory lap over the Soros/Hillary purple revolution, and drinks water with both hands to simulate handcuffs. Clearly reacting to this situation, the representative of the bloodlines set the meeting for December 23, the birthday of the Japanese emperor, and claimed to be a representative of the imperial family as well as the G7. The representative, who acted as if he was negotiating a surrender, said the bloodlines want to keep existing nation-states and institutions as they are, but, said they were willing to cooperate with, and provide funding for, a new international economic future planning agency. The WD's negotiator said that existing nation-states and institutions should be allowed to mostly continue and emphasized that the WD's was interested in creating something new, not destroying anything old. Some borders, though, such as the artificial division of the Korean Peninsula, would have to be changed, both sides agreed. Both also agreed that the United Nations, as currently structured, is dysfunctional and in need of drastic reform. Overall, the two sides were close enough on these points to be able to reach some sort of eventual agreement. However, the Bloodlines delegate said they wanted to keep control over central banks and the creation of money, because if the people had control of monetary policy, nobody would work. He added that although there was a council of 13 in Switzerland that represented each of the families, many of the heads of these families were, like the Emperor of Japan, not actually from real family bloodlines. He said the families existed more as institutions than strict representatives of actual bloodlines. The WD's representative said they support the idea that money should be earned, but said people-controlled central banks could print money to pay for such things as education, the military, public works, healthcare, exploration of the universe, and scientific research. The WD's negotiator also said the WD's insists on a jubilee, or one-time cancellation of all debt, public and private, together with a one-off redistribution of ill-gotten assets. If those conditions were agreed to, the bloodlines could continue to function in a diminished role in the corporate part of the economy, the WD's representative said. At this point the negotiations broke off, as the bloodline representative was clearly not authorized to negotiate the end of privately owned central banks or a jubilee. However, the following day a representative of a group known as the Golden Dragon, who control the gold-backed part of the current international financial system, sent the following message to the WD's: I am very pleased to reconcile and negotiate so the United States will start fresh with a new economic transition. It must be noted that while the military government represented by Trump is definitely winning inside the US, the bloodlines still have strong control in the rest of the world. So, even if Trump uses an economic emergency to renounce the US credit card bill, the next time the US goes to the gasoline stand they will find they will no longer be able to pay for their gas using their card. This will mean a hard landing, as is already being experienced in Puerto Rico.
The Lord of Jubilees, which was called upon from the beginning of human history by witches, sorcerers, wizards, monks, priests, and alchemists since the beginning of time. And so we have CERN, which is the alchemy machine, which is playing alongside of this ritual, which is very significant in history because Pope Francis called upon this jubilee out of nowhere, and it has to do with certain alignments.
where in 1959, two very important things happened. One was the Van Allen radiation belts were announced by Van Allen, a NASA employee, go figure, and the Antarctic Treaty was signed. And the Antarctic Treaty, you cannot underestimate this thing. And please look it up if you get a chance. None of this stuff I'm telling you, by the way, is secret information. You can look it up and see the broad moves that were made yourself. The Antarctic Treaty was put in place in 1959, same year as the Van Allen radiation belts. Van Allen belts basically saying, don't go up there. There's something super, super deadly. And if any humans go past it, they're going to die.
And what altitude was that supposed to be at when it was in?
Van Allen radiation belts totally start, I think, about 500 miles, give or take, and extend upwards of 60,000 miles deep, some to that effect. Okay. But we'll get into that in a second. The second part was the Antarctic Treaty, which says, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, that no corporation anywhere in the world can do anything in Antarctica ever. That's the short version of it. So if you all of a sudden, Richard, decide to create your own country and you become an economic power, you will have to sign this treaty. And the treaty says none of your corporations can go down to Antarctica ever. The treaties, it's the only treaty ever in the history of treaties that has gone this long without anybody even challenging it.
So there were like 150 countries that signed it or something like that?
Everybody signs it. If you trade in the world, you have to sign this country. And it's not even up for debate until the year 2041.
Antarctica is the recent discovery of the enigmatic Ark of Gabriel. In the last months of 2015, it is said that during a construction project in Saudi Arabia, an amazingly powerful artifact was uncovered in Mecca. But upon discovery, it was said to have given off an incredibly powerful energy blast, killing 15 people immediately, followed by many more when a crane fell on workers as the site disintegrated. Attempts to retrieve the artifact failed until authorities contracted the Patriarch of the Russian Church, Patriarch Kirill. In early 2017, with the help of ancient manuscripts, Kirill was able to transport the Ark to Antarctica, but not before meeting with the Pope in Havana, Cuba, for the first time in 1,000 years. What was discussed? Only a select few will ever know. 6 days after the meeting, Kirill was in Antarctica. Some say he was there to bury the Ark to stop its dangerous energy affecting others, while some speculate it was taken to a secret base and integrated into a great underground city.
Now, think of this as an elaboration on a larger scale, and what we're dealing with actually is humanity and the elite, the secret societies, the Vatican. They're traitors to humanity, because the one at the very core that's pulling the strings is a different species. They're not the human race.
This specific species of individuals is occupying the Vatican and functioning through the Jesuit order?
Yes, but they're also working in the banks in Portugal, because one of the people who saw this, you know, in Saturday Night Live, there was a broadcast of something called the Coneheads. So that's a slang word for them. Although my mother refers to them as the boneheads. But they're alive and running around and doing all kinds of mischief.
Now, some people might find the information that you're presenting right now to be completely some people might say it's completely crazy. What do you say to those people who are watching this right now going, I don't believe a word of it?
I would say you need to read the articles that Ed Spencer has sent me. You need to look at the skulls in the museums. You need to read the DNA studies. And you need also to think about what kind of motive the human beings might have for being traitors to their species. Why would they do this? Why would we have a banking system where all the money ends up going to the Vatican and people run around starving?
Now, what you will see is something so interesting. And I'll tell you what, it really is pretty spooky stuff. We're talking about the D-Wave system, and we're talking about quantum computing. We're talking about accessing what he says, and these are not my words. These are not the speculations of a man on the internet. These are from the actual creator of the first quantum computer. And he says that, and I quote, they are accessing parallel universes, very similar to one just like ours. Everything happening in it with slight differences. Well, isn't that interesting that we're seeing slight differences in the things around us? We're not talking about huge things, but we are seeing differences in things. Slight name changes, apostrophes that weren't there before, logo changes, you name it. Now, I have to ask you, nobody asked me if I wanted my reality to be jacked with. And these people, and he states that he thinks they're amazing scientists doing amazing and have amazing minds. who are going to waste because they're not fulfilling their potential. And it's really sad to me that, well, I'm so sorry that you are so bored that you feel like you need to be playing God and jacking realities, because that's what's happening right now. So I want you to witness this. I want you to see what he is talking about. I want you to listen to the wording very carefully, because it's very important for all of us to understand the truth. And the truth is, your reality is changing, and it's going to change quite a bit, because these new computers are accessing higher realities, parallel universes that are around us. And it's something that we're going to need to pay attention to.
With all the increase of strange phenomena, severe weather incidents, wildfires, earthquakes, war, civil unrest, and the list goes on and on. I mean, really, you could open a can of conspiracy theories for any subject you care to discuss. It's just the world of deception you live in. Many people, however, have noted how many of these events seem to come in waves. Now, we're not talking about waves like a baby saying goodbye or a bleacher full of fans doing the wave for some team, but rather waves perhaps better understood by observing a pebble striking the surface of water, the ripples expanding outward from the point of impact, those kind of waves, to describe the progression of events mentioned earlier, like the weather patterns increasing in intensity and frequency. To really grasp or take hold of where this video is headed, it may be important to note, when discussing waves or wave function, that there are two main words used to describe the measurements of said waves: longitudinal, which describes the length or linear progression, and transverse, which addresses the crests and troughs, or the height and depth of the wave as it moves through whatever medium you're looking at, in this case water. When the pebble or stone hits the surface, it sends out a shock wave, as it were, and can be witnessed as ripples or waves extending out from the point of impact. This can also be observed with an explosion as the percussion waves move out from the detonation center. Now, you're probably already wondering, what has this got to do with you or the title of this video? Remember, I said we need to consider all the possibilities, and therefore it has everything to do with you, as well as all of humankind for that matter. Each opinion and point of view should be considered before drawing a conclusion about anything. So don't forget to comment and share. Now, keeping in mind the idea of wave function, let's consider for a moment the theory of retrocausality. This is the idea that something has taken place in the future that causes an effect in the present. Now, even science and every religion actually teaches this to some level in one form or another. For example, all the ancient prophecies tell of future events to take place in the present, here and now, for whatever generation may be reading the prophecy at the time. In other words, any day could be our last day, for no one has a promise of tomorrow. Now, put like that, it sounds pretty doom and gloom, but scientifically, it's a plain biological fact. People die every day. You live and you die, and no one is guaranteed their next breath or their next heartbeat. So rather than focus on the inevitable reality of the fleshly demise, that word we call death, it is easier as a human to just imagine you'll live forever and thereby remove any anxiety or fear of one's own end. There should be no fear at all. Many religions and writers and poets from every generation, as well as sculptors and painters, have told stories of ancient history and, of course, of future events believed to come. Many scryers like Nostradamus, made famous for predictions yet to take place, and the Hopi Indians seeing the current chemtrails as cobwebs in the sky mentioned in their prophecies, and science itself predicting greater storms, stronger earthquakes, volcanoes to erupt, continental drifts, solar flares, and even incoming meteors or asteroids. I mean, even our medical sciences are in the habit of predicting future events, like increase of disease due to overuse of antibiotics or superbugs breaking out in some kind of widespread pandemic. You see, when looking into the future, whether through the eyes of science or some ancient prophecy, trigger words for fear will keep popping up in the mindsets of those stuck in this media-trained society, which leads to cognitive dissonance and a complete shutdown and rejection of proposed theories or ideas that are outside of one's own comfort zone. So if you can look past your own fears as well as your belief systems long enough to grasp a concept that is both plausible in the field of quantum mechanics and entertainable to those of a more spiritual nature at the same time, then we can better understand retrocausality and how it may very well explain what is actually taking place with this quantum manipulation, or more popularly termed, the Mandela effect.
A wise man will hear the whole matter before judging. Retrocausality. Engage.
To enable your quantum computer to spin particles backwards through time along a closed timeline.
Well, Mandela's dead.
Okay, but we're in the above. And we're tapping into the digital nature of the universe.
My entire life I thought it was got down on my knees and I began to pray.
Be very careful with us and cousins. We're summoning the demon.
The Large Hadron Collider might also reveal extra dimensions that could play a role in time travel.
Programming the universe to do the stuff we ask it to do.
Trying to use quantum computers to build intelligent machines.
Now, many oddities have been reported and great claims made concerning this phenomenon, and due to the many experiences and growing awareness of such, many theories have been postulated and brought forth to try and explain not only what is happening in our current reality, but also why. With many people having the same collective memories of past events that do not match up to what the current recorded history shows, different spellings of words, changes in company signs and logos, famous lines in movies or songs, somehow being altered from what many recall them originally being.
Let me say my piece, and then I'll let it be. I think there's a Mandela effect thing happening here. I don't know if it's a Berenstain alternate universe happening. I sang it both ways, which is so weird to think about, but I've done it both ways.
Seemingly impossible and even supernatural changes in literature and art, as well as in geographical differences on maps or particular landmarks. Land masses and islands being moved out of their places, even great claims of changes to the human anatomy itself, and different recollections of people once thought dead, now living as if somehow resurrected to perhaps give them a second chance at life. Now, of course, the majority of the population are unaware or in total disbelief of such claims, as alluded to in the Mandela effect community. And granted, many of the so-called changes perhaps are just fabrications or hoaxes presented to draw attention or create a false narrative to further a mind game of confusion. For example, this particular YouTuber has gone to the extreme to showcase his talent with simple special effects to try and hype the effect of changes taking place in his own home. Unfortunately, he wasn't studied enough in scripture to pull it off by making the mistake of just changing the word wolf to lion. Had he known the original scriptures, he would have also known that wasn't the only word changed to that verse. He was just another hoaxer looking for fame or notoriety, just adding to the conglomerate of confusion that is YouTube.
Alright, I admit it. I am the Lindbergh baby. Wah, wah, goo goo.
However, with more and more residual evidence to support these claims made of quantum molecular changes, the phenomenon of the effect has been accepted as real and even reported in the mainstream media as such. With more and more people realizing the scope and magnitude of the seriousness of this situation, many are driven to understand how any of this is even possible in the first place. Theories of multiple dimensions, split timelines, quantum pollution, and the digital nature of the universe. All of these giving way to even more theories of alien interventions and government experiments, New Age awakening, and even time travel. Many of these ideas working in tandem with each other to introduce a complete smorgasbord of concepts for the conspiracy theory-minded community to be able to feast forever without ever coming to any real conclusions. And many have come to believe that the largest machine ever built by man, located at the CERN facility near Geneva, is perhaps the cause due to their experiments and the CERN scientists' own claims of trying to open portals or doorways to other dimensions and understand or even manipulate the reality of our universe. And why not with the electromagnetics that are said to be 100,000 times stronger than the Earth's natural magnetic pull, sending out waves of force to affect the Schumann resonance and thereby even affect the frequency of the brain waves of humans? Of course, this is with the assumption that you, the viewer, already have an understanding of DARPA and Fermilab, the Brain Initiative, particle colliders, quantum computers, the HART program, and so on and so on. All of which are government-funded research programs, I might add, that just scratch the surface of what might be called mind-blowing reality with technological advancements that are beyond the comprehension of even those involved in said projects. Let's just say that much of science fiction is really science fact.
I will propose a significant investment by the National Institutes of Health, DARPA, and the National Science Foundation to help get this project off the ground.
So, with all of this in mind, let's imagine, if you will, that something has taken place in the future that is of such great proportion that it has caused a shock wave to reverberate throughout the molecular realm of matter and even time itself. Now, I know this may sound a bit far-fetched to those outside of the field of quantum physics, but I assure you this theory is quite real, and given the current understanding of matter manipulation through quantum entanglement, along with the mathematical computations concerning the fourth dimension of time itself, well, then we can truly imagine and contemplate such an event having already taken place in our future. So, for argument's sake, let's say this future event is of such a cataclysmic nature that it has in fact caused an impact that has sent a wave of quantum distortion affecting not only the molecular makeup of matter, but even our understanding of the linear time constraints. What kind of event could cause such effects?
So here's the deal. I don't know how much time I got left on this particular camera. But we want to rush through real quick, understanding that retrocausality, this thing that has occurred, something in the future, whatever it may be, is so big, so catastrophic, cataclysmic, that it's literally sent a shock wave throughout time and creation. So much so that it has disturbed the molecular structure, as it were. I mean, we're talking about something that can change the physical attributes of the human anatomy, even. Now, that's some pretty drastic stuff. Blue eyes now on Hitler, the hero of World War II, right? Huh? It used to be brown eyes, and now everybody, well, we got blue eyes. Really?
If you look at the evidence for a pyramidal, if you will, system across the country, and Stargates, by the way, they just released the CIA, dossier, and isn't it interesting? One of the most important things is Operation Stargate. Now,
that's right. There we go. Back up with real headlines.
So here's the deal. The United States government absorbed the scientists, the intelligence agents, and for the record, the SS wasn't just, I can't pronounce the word, but the SS in the esoteric realm was known as a Schwarzsonne, SCHWARZ, Sonne, S-O-N-N-E, which means black sun. So the idea that Admiral Byrd was trying to get across to everybody that would understand, by the way, they put him under lock and key and told him to shut up after a certain point. But the point is, he said that, at first he thought, and this is Admiral Byrd, this is interesting because it goes along with Ben Rich, too, the former head. By the way, Ben Rich, the guy I was talking about, Lockheed, was known as the father of stealth technology. And he makes one statement. I got to read this to you because it's this critical. He said, when Rich was asked how UFO propulsion worked, he said, "Let me ask you, how does ESP work?" The question responded with, "All points in time and space are connected." And that's when he said, that's how it works.
Mi è piaciuto molto il titolo, The Future You, perché mentre guarda al domani, invita già da oggi al dialogo. Guardando al futuro, invita a rivolgersi a un tu, The Future You. Quel giudizio duro che porto nel cuore contro mio fratello o mia sorella, quella ferita non curata, quel male non perdonato, quel rancore che mi farà solo male, è un pezzetto di guerra che porto dentro, è un focolaio nel cuore da spegnere perché non divampi in un incendio che non lasci cenere. Spesso non ci pensiamo, ma in realtà tutto è collegato e abbiamo bisogno di risanare i nostri collegamenti.
Open your eyes.
This isn't real, this isn't real, this is...
His heart rate is getting dangerously high.
He looks all right to me. You think you know how the world works? You think that this material universe is all there is? What is real? What mysteries lie beyond the reach of your senses? The root of existence mind and matter meet. This universe is only one of an infinite number. Worlds without end. Some benevolent and life-giving. Others filled with malice and hunger. Dark. Who are you in this vast multiverse? Mr. Strange?
Gaga? You have one picture, Gaga, please.
Stop pushing, boys.
Gaga, for 8 days, can I have one picture, please?
Wow. Boys, let's back up. I'm getting squashed. Get a bit closer. Have you look at Anne? It's on his foot. Stay there. Get back, dude. We'll give her space. Fans, she's not going to do anything to you.
Look at our pictures, everyone.
Bye, Dada.
Well, still away for that.
I love ya.
Wow.
Calm down, baby.
Dosey-do, 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 dosey-do.